Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good day, welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. You can watch this program live on our Facebook page, Radyo Pilipinas World Service, and you can also hear us live on our audio streaming at Evox PBS Receiver app. Join us for another edition of Front and Center with your host, Jerome Toledo.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
The Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or PhilHealth, is set to receive a subsidy. That's for next year after it gets no subsidy this year, 2025. That's according to the Department of Budget and Management's proposed National Expenditure Program, or NEP. The proposed 2026 budget increases funding for the healthcare sector by 23.6%, and that includes subsidies for the state health insurer. The move follows Finance Secretary Ralph Rector's statement in July that the government would restore the state's insurers' funding, and PhilHealth has expanded its coverage earlier this year despite having no subsidy for this year. And to give us more details about this issue regarding the funding or the subsidy funding for the PhilHealth, we now have on the line the President and Chief Executive Officer, none other than Dr. Edwin M. Mercado. Good morning, Dr. Mercado. This is Jerome Toledo of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good morning, Jerome, and good morning to all our viewers and followers. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
Yan, magandang umaga po, Dr. Mercado. Ito po, itong nilabas na 53 billion na pesos subsidy na proposed subsidy fund na inilabas po, na inanunsyo nga po ng Department of Budget and Management. So confirm na po ba itong amount na ito, Dr. Mercado?
Yeah, yes, Jerome, nung kami po ay nakipagpulong sa ating mga finance secretaries, including the Department of Budget and the Department of NEDA, which is now is DepDev. We all agreed that the PhilHealth should be supported given all the new benefits that we're rolling out. And this is just the initial national expenditure program, and definitely when we go up to the appropriations committee, we might still consider some other addition if based on our current projections, because we usually start out with the projection of our annual benefit payment or annual benefit expense, which considers several things. Number one is the ramp up of all our new benefits, because when we roll out a new benefit, it does not mean that it's 100% take up in the first few months or even a year. Usually it ramps up over a period of 2 to 3 years. And so the 53.5 billion would definitely help in sustaining the ramp up of these new benefits.
So sapat po itong 53 billion peso subsidy na ito na pre-propose nga under the NEP. So ito nga ay makakatulong nga para ma-ramp up ito yung mga bagong benefits packages na ilalabas po o inilabas na ng PhilHealth. Tama po ba ito, Dr. Mercado?
Tama po. In fact, kung titingnan natin, yung tinatawag na subsidy is actually the premium payment for our indirect members. By definition, yung mga indirect members, ang ating mga miyembro na medyo walang ganong kakayahan na magbayad ng premium. At ngayon, tinutuos din namin yung yung mga benefit payment natin sa mga indirect members dahil bukod sa mga dagdag benepisyo na binibigay natin, nagkakaroon na ng consciousness yung ating mga miyembro na talagang nakakatulong ang PhilHealth at talaga nag-a-avail na sila. Kaya yun yung aming binabantayan at maaari pang pagbasihan ng karagdagang subsidiya na pag kami ay dumulog na sa ating mga sa Congress at saka sa Senado dito sa darating na budget season.
Mamaya po, Dr. Mercado, tatanungin ko po yung mga benefits o yung mga new benefits package na ilulunsad po ng PhilHealth for this year or the next year. But dumako muna tayo dito sa tanong na ito. So, ibig sabihin po, itong 53 billion peso subsidy na marireceive po ng PhilHealth ay mangangahulugan po ito na walang increase po, premium increase ng PhilHealth at syempre palalawakin pa yung mga serbisyo po ng ating state health insurer.
Tama yan, Jerome. Wala kaming pinroject na magtataas ng premium rates. Yung nakasaad kasi sa batas, nasa maximum na tayo nung ating current na 5% of the compensation or the basic salary of our members. So wala tayong itataas pa dun sa cap na yon. At ang ginagawa namin, of course, is efficiency within the corporation. At saka tinitingnan din namin na maging mas efficient dun din sa mga koleksyon ng premium dun sa atin namang mga direct sector members o yung mga nasa formal sector. Kasi siguro naman nararamdaman na ng ating mga kababayan na marami ng benepisyo at hindi lamang pag ikaw ay nagkasakit, kasi nga ang dami nagsasabi ba't kami maghuhulog ng premium kung hindi naman namin nagagamit. Hindi po ganun ang konsepto po ng social health insurance. Tayo po ay sama-samang nag-aambag para po tayo ay magtulungan dahil hindi po natin matatansya kung kailan tayo mangangailangan. Kaya nga po ito insurance. At kahit po wala tayong sakit, pinalawig na po namin yung benepisyo na maging preemptive o maging gamutin na natin bago pa magkasakit ang ating miyembro. At yun nga po yung ating nilunsad na bagong programa na kung tawagan po ay Yamang Pangkalusugan o YAKAP.
Okay. Tatalakayin din po natin yan, Dr. Mercado, about dun nga po sa YAKAP program na. At nito lang na nilunsad nga lang po ng PhilHealth na syempre na pinangunahan po ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. itong paglulunsad nga ng programa. Ito po, since the government will provide a subsidy for the next year, so that's 53 billion pesos. So I would like to focus on this. So I would like to know, Dr. Mercado, so how the PhilHealth is spending its current fund it has, because earlier this year po si Pangulong Marcos Jr. Sinabi po niya na may daang bilyong pisong reserve funds po ang PhilHealth para ma-sustain itong operations at makapaghatid po ng serbisyo sa ating mga kababayan. Kaya nagkaroon po nga po ng conclusion doon or umabot sa conclusion point ang ating bicameral committee dyan nung ipinasa itong national budget para sa taong ito. Inalis po yung 74 billion pesos subsidy. So, paano po na ginagastos ng PhilHealth ang pondo po nito given na wala po tayong subsidy for this year?
So, tama yan, Jerome, para mabigyan ng perspective yung ating mga taga-subaybay. Yun po ang kung tawagin ay altogether, parang kabuuan, surplus fund. So, may iba-iba po yung mga bahagi. Yung number 1 po dyan ay yung reserve fund na kung saan po nakasaad sa ating batas na meron po lagi tayong nakasubli o nakatabing pondo in case po na magkaroon ng malawakang pandemya, malawakang disaster, wag naman po sana mangyari, pero yun po yung kumbaga you save for the rainy day. Yun po yung tinatabi natin. Yun po nakakahalaga po yun ng 280 billion. At yung natitira naman po ay yung pong tinatawag nating parang retained earnings o yung pong sumobra doon sa ating pong mga ginagastos ng mga nakaraang taon. So yun po ay umaabot po ng mga 140 billion. At doon po sa natitirang yon, yung 280 po, hindi po pwedeng galawin po unless nga meron ng fortuitous event o meron po mga kaganapan na talagang emergent or emergency. Yung pong natitira, unti-unti na po namin ginagamit yon. Kaya po ngayong taong ito actually, ay nagpo-project po kami ng anywhere from 70 to 80 billion na kukunin na po namin doon sa ating reserve fund.
At doon po sa reserve fund na kukunin na
Sorry po, doon sa ating
Retain.
surplus fund, hindi po
Surplus.
sa reserve kasi nabanggit ko nga kanina yung reserve fund, hindi natin pwedeng galawin dahil yan po ay nakasaad sa batas. Kailangan pong kubli para po sa mga unexpected na mga fortuitous events.
Okay. So, kung pag-uusapan natin ng surplus fund, Dr. Mercado, etong 53 billion babagsak po ito sa surplus fund?
Ay, hindi, papasok na yan dun sa kabuuan ng corporate operating budget. Yun ngayon yung ilalaan namin ng mga panggastusin sa pinoproject naming mga benefit payment for next year. At kasama na rin dyan yung makukuha naming mga premium payment doon sa ating direct members. So kumbaga yan yung aming revenue for parte yan na magiging revenue namin for next year, na ang tansya namin moving forward dahil medyo yung absorptive capacity ng PhilHealth gumaganda na Marami nang na-engage na mga providers, marami nang nasisiyahan na yung mga hospital dahil nakakapagbayad na kami na mas mabilis. So mas dumadami ngayon yung mga nag-a-align o doon sa tumatanggap doon sa aming mga benefit packages. So yun ay tinatansya na namin at ang tingin namin mas magagamit namin yung kabuuan ng aming kinikita sa taon-taon. So yun ay tansya namin for next year. Kalimitan kasi for a very efficient social health insurance, may tinatawag na medical loss ratio o yung proportion ng lahat ng revenue ay dapat magamit para doon sa pagpapalawig at saka pagbabayad ng benepisyo ay umabot ng mga 85 to 90%. At yun ang aming tinatansya mangyayari na sa mga susunod na taon.
Okay.
Yung remaining 10% ay usually yan yun sa operating expense, sa pasweldo, sa aming mga gamit na pang-araw-araw dito sa aming korporasyon.
Na-mention niyo po yung about doon sa pagbabayad sa mga ospital natin. So, kamusta po ito? Kasi nagkaroon nga po ng issue about this. May mga ilang ospital kasi na hindi na tumatanggap ng PhilHealth, hindi na ino-honor yung PhilHealth card para makapagpagamot sa isang ospital. So, kamusta po ang pagsesettle natin sa mga hindi pa nabayarang liabilities natin sa mga ospital, maging pribado man ito o pampubliko?
So, Jerome, ang pagbabayad naman kasi ay hindi lamang yung kumbaga the process o yung proseso ay hindi solely sa PhilHealth nakasalalay. Nais ko lang linawin yon. Ang una po dyan, yung accuracy at saka po yung timeliness ng pagfa-file ng claims ay nasa parte na po yan ng healthcare facility kasi sila po yung obligadong magpuno ng mga forms, maglakip o magdikit ng mga dokumentong required at saka po isasubmit sa amin. So kami po ay nag-reach out na yung nga po pag upo ko dito sa aking katungkulan ay nakipagpulong na po ako kaagad sa Philippine Hospital Association, sa PHAPI, Private Hospital Association of the Philippines, at sa PMA, sa Philippine Medical Association, para pagtulungan natin. So tinuruan namin yung mga billing clerks at currently sumusuyod nga kami ng mga hospital para mabawasan yung time from discharge to filing at saka yung quality ng claims ay gumanda kasi pag hindi ho eksakto, hindi ho kumpleto, nire-reject din ho ng system, nagtatagal ho yung proseso ng claims. Pero doon po sa mga good claims, yung tama po yung nakalakip ng mga dokumento, tama po yung filing, ay naibaba na po namin ng datihan po mga 45 to 60 days to currently po nasa average na po kami ng 23 days at hinahabol pa po naming maibaba pa ng almost mga 15 days pa. So, marami pong hospital na natutuwa. In fact, kahapon po, nasa PHA meeting ako at lahat po naman sila ay nagsasabing nararamdaman po nila yung bilis na ng aming pagbabayad ngayon. Pangalawa po, yung mga hindi po namin nabayaran dahil nga po nag-lapse yung claims lalo na po nung panahon ng COVID, ay nire-reprocess po ngayon. Nagbigay po kami ng amnestia na yun pong mga claims na nag-lapse nung more than 60 days kasi yun po yung hangganan ng aming filing period, ay pwede pong i-reprocess ulit. At yun po, tinutulungan din po namin yung ating mga ospital.
Okay. Okay, so well said about dun sa pagsisettle nga ng PhilHealth dun sa mga liability sa ating mga ospital. At syempre, nakasalalay pa rin sa ating mga healthcare facilities ang syempre pagpoproseso sa ating mga pagpoproseso sa mga claims na kanilang na kailangan na mabayaran din. Anyway, dako na tayo dito, Dr. Mercado. So, babalikan ko itong 53 billion subsidy para sa susunod na taon. So, what can we expect from PhilHealth upon ito nga pong pre-propose na po itong 53 billion peso subsidy next year. So, mapapalawak po ba itong mga programa like you mentioned kanina, yung YAKAP program?
Tama, Jerome. Siyempre, any new program merong tinatawag na lag time dahil nag-engage pa tayo ng mga provider, yung kumbaga sino ang magbibigay at sino ang magiging access point nitong ating mga serbisyo. So, ngayong taong ito, nag-umpisa lang muna tayo dito sa Manila. So, ang datihang konsulta, in-expand natin na datihan 21 gamot, ngayon ay naging 75 gamot. So, nadagdagan ng 54 na gamot. At yung 54 na gamot na yon na naidagdag, ay meron tayong dinevelop na program na app na kung saan pag ito ay naireseta ng isang YAKAP primary doctor provider doon sa mga YAKAP centers, ay pwedeng puntahan at gamitin ng ating mga miyembro saan mang mga affiliated pharmacies dito sa Pilipinas. So ngayon lang, as I said, Manila, nag-umpisa na kami sa Cebu, Davao. So for next year, hopefully nationwide na yan. So malaki na yung magiging access points ng ating mga miyembro na kung saan sila pwedeng kumuha ng gamot na covered nitong YAKAP program. At Jerome, ito ay 20,000 pesos kada miyembro sa taon-taon. So malaki po itong ginhawang maidudulot sa ating mga pasyente. At ang habol namin ay manatili silang malusog at mastustusan yung maintenance medicine nila kaysa naman paputol-putol yung kanilang mga gamot at eventually kami rin confine din ng pasyente at mas malaki pa ang magagastos natin. Hindi lang po sa PhilHealth kundi para rin po sa ating pasyente. So yun po yung isa. Yung pangalawa po yung laboratorio. So meron din po kaming piling mga laboratoryong dinagdag. 6 po yan at yan po ay coverage po ng cancer screening. Cancer po sa breast, sa liver, sa lungs, sa yung datihan po sa prostate, meron na po yan. Sa colon, meron na rin po. So yan po ay kasama na on top of the existing na 13 lab test po na doon pa rin po makukuha sa konsulta o YAKAP clinic. Kung nabanggit kong cancer screening, dahil malalaki pong makina ang kailangan po dyan, meron pa po kaming mga affiliations na ginagawa. Usually po yan sa mga hospital o doon sa mga freestanding na mga laboratory center. So yun po, hopefully next year, palawigin din po natin. Ngayon din po, nag-uumpisa kami dito sa Manila, Cebu, Davao. So yung pong karagdagang 53.5 billion po, ina-expect namin, hopefully, matustusan po itong expansion ng ating YAKAP program.
And also, ito po, recently nga po, itong PhilHealth, in-expand po yung services under outpatient program. Ito po yung 20,000 peso na limit po. Tama po ba ito, Dr. Mercado?
Opo, parang may e-wallet po ang kada Pilipino. So hindi naman po ang tansya po namin base doon sa pag-aaral na incident rate hindi naman po lahat ng Pilipino ay nangangailangan ng chronic medicine. So ito po, meron tayong datos kung ano po, ilan yung porsyento. At ito po ay taunan pong nire-replenish. Yun lang, wala hong rollover. Kung hindi nyo nagamit noong nakaraang taon, magsi-zero out ho yan. Tapos panibago pong 20,000 ulit sa panimula po ng susunod na taon. At yun nga po, hopefully, tingin ko po, masusustain naman po dahil nga nagdadagdag po ng budget ang ating national government para po isustain na itong mga ganitong programa po.
Okay. Pero
doon, Jerome, meron din kaming mga dagdag pa mga benepisyo. Naglabas kami ng mga benepisyo sa cancer. Nire-review namin yung cancer ng colon, nire-review namin yung cancer ng prostate, ng thyroid. Bukod dun sa nailatag na naming mga benepisyo for breast cancer, for open heart surgery, for acute myocardial infarct. So yun din, may lag time yon ng bahagya at nakikita namin marami ng mga hospital na nagpapa-affiliate sa amin. So hopefully mas magkaroon ng access ang ating mga kababayan. So yun yung mga pupundahan nitong mga dagdag na 53.5 billion na ibibigay ng ating national government.
Maganda rin pala yun, no? Para nakikipag-compete na rin tayo doon sa ating yung mga kilalang HMO dito sa bansa. Siyempre, pagdating nga dito sa pag-aalok nga ng mga medical services sa ating mga kababayan, Dr. Mercado.
Tama yan, Jerome. In fact, nakikipagpulong din kami dito sa mga HMOs na sabi namin, halos nako-cover na namin yung first peso kung tawagin. Ano dapat ngayon ang role ng HMO sa ginagawang pagpapalawig ng benepisyo ng PhilHealth? Kaya ang tawag nga doon ay complementation or supplementation. Kung ano yung hindi nako-cover ng PhilHealth, halimbawa, mas ginusto kong pumunta ng soluhang kwarto, mas gusto kong ako may karapatang pumili ng doktor kahit hindi parte ng ating no balance bill program. Yun siguro dapat i-cover ng HMO. O yung mga sakit na hindi pa namin kino-cover kasi base dun sa aming pag-aaral ay hindi pa ganong karami ang nangangailangan. Maaring yun ay i-cover ng HMO. So nagpupulong na kami doon sa mga ganong mga aspeto.
Okay, very well said. Okay, so yun nga po, mapapalawak nga next year nga itong mga serbisyo ng PhilHealth sa pagkakaroon nga ng 53 billion peso subsidy. Okay, so with that, maraming salamat po, Dr. Edwin Mercado, ang presidente po at Chief Executive Officer ng Philippine Health Insurance Corporation sa pagpapaunlak po sa aming programa at accept po ng aming panayam sa inyo. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga po.
Maraming salamat din, Jerome, at magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
Okay. And you just heard the President and CEO of Philippine Health Insurance Corporation. That's Dr. Edwin Mercado. Front and Center will be right back after these short messages.
Huy, nabiktima ka na ba ng fake news sa panahon ng digital media? Learn how to spot fake news. Check the source. Kung di legit, dapat magduda. Check the purpose. Informative or troll post at clickbait lang. Check the ownership. Mapagkakatiwalaan ba ang pinagkukuhanan nito? Check the time and date. Baka naman outdated na yung news na yan, ha? SPOT. Together, let's spot fake news. Tiyakin ang katotohanan, fake news ay labanan.
A friendly message from PCO, DepEd, CHED, DSWD, DILG, PBS at Radyo Pilipinas.
Mas pinadali na ang government transactions sa tulong ng eGovPH Super App. Pwedeng-pwede mo nang magawa ang lahat ng ito. I-download ang eGov app sa iyong smartphone o tablet mula sa App Store o Google Play Store. Pagkatapos, ilagay ang iyong mobile number at i-authenticate gamit ang one-time PIN o OTP para marehistro ang iyong account. Saka ilagay ang iyong mga pangunahing impormasyon at kumpletuhin ang facial recognition technology para sa verifikasyon ng iyong pagkakakilanlan. Para sa mas mabilis at mas maayos na serbisyong panggobyerno, gamitin na ang eGovPH Super App.
Sa ASEAN, iisa ang laban pagdating sa kalusugan. Kaya't ang banta sa isa ay banta sa buong rehiyon. Ito ang diwa ng One Region, One Health. Alam niyo ba, noong kasagsagan ng pandemya, Nagpadala ng tulong ang mga kapitbansa ng mga PPE, test kits at kaalaman. Dahil sa koordinadong aksyon ng riyon, mabilis at maayos itong naiparating sa mga nangangailangan. Nagkaroon ng online training, palitan ng datos at sabayang aksyon. Bawat bansa alam ang susunod na hakbang kahit magkakaiba ng hamon. Nagkaisa rin ang mga scientists at health workers mula sa iba't ibang bansa. Nagtulungan sila sa pagbabahagi ng research, pagbuo ng solusyon at pagtuturo para mas mapabilis ang tugon. At hindi lang kalusugan ng tao ang mahalaga. Minsan, ang sakit ay nagmumula sa hayop o kapaligiran.
Lahat naramdaman natin yung impact ng COVID sa ating day-to-day living. And sabi nga nila is yung COVID may have come from bats na tumalon sa ibang species and then eventually sa humans. So nagkaroon tayo ng ganung klaseng awareness na ang biodiversity loss, pag nangalaga tayo ng kalikasan natin, it can actually support our efforts to prevent in the long term yung mga zoonotic diseases or mga pandemic.
Kaya mahalaga ang kabuuang pagtingin sa kalusugan ng tao, hayop at kalikasan o ang tinatawag na One Health. Isa itong pagtutulungang paraan para sabay-sabay mapangalagaan ang lahat ng ito, lalo na laban sa mga bagong sakit, resistensya sa gamot at epekto ng climate change. Dahil sa ASEAN, mas mabilis ang tulong, mas handa tayo at mas ligtas ang bawat isa sa riyon. One Region, One Health.
Time to celebrate kulturang Pinoy. Tradisyon, musika, sining, literatura at iba pa. Anything and everything fun and Filipino. Ito ang Pinoy Kultura.
Naaalala niyo pa ba ang mga katagang ito?
Amoy pawis, amoy araw. Ano ba yan? Puro sugat ka na naman! Bakit wala na naman kapares yung tsinelas mo? Ang dungis mo!
Ma! Tama na! Ayos lang, di ba? Masaya naman tayo naglalaro sa kalye ng sipa, patintero, agawang base, habulan, jolen, trumpo, text, at marami pang iba.
Some Filipino games just show how creative we are. All we need are players and nothing else. Ang saya balikan ng ating kabataan.
Kain, tulog, laro, laro, at laro.
O ano, game na?
Pagkabilang kong 3, nakatago na kayo!
Yan ang Pinoy Kultura because our culture is cool.
Paliwanag mo sa tao na hindi totoo yan.
Dahil ang totoo, yung totoo ang dapat ninyong malaman.
Nagkalat sa internet ang fake news
o mali at fake news. Tinatakot niyo yung tao.
What they are doing is creating panic.
We say no.
Yung pagkalat ng fake news. And some of it's dangerous.
Sana iwasan po natin pagsispread ng fake news.
At di magpapakalat ng disinformation at misinformation ang kasulukuyang administrasyon.
Stop telling us fake news because you're wrong.
Para sa totoo at mapagkakatiwala ang mga balita at impormasyon, Radyo Pilipinas.
Front and center. Front and center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome back to Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service with me, Jerome Toledo. While we wait for our second guest, I will have to discuss this statement coming from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, the BSP suspends the in-app gambling access in mobile payment apps and websites. And BSP has issued a directive to all BSP-supervised institutions or BSIs to remove links providing in-app gambling access from their payment apps and websites. That's within 48 hours. Covered by this memo are the e-wallets as well as banks through their payment apps and websites and other BSIs or BSP supervised institutions. The suspended in-app gambling access includes any product or services or feature that redirects an account holder to a gaming or gambling sites. The BSP directive is issued in light of the surge in online gambling transactions and its impact on the financial health of consumers and their families, and considering the broader social cost. And the suspension will remain in place until the central bank finalizes the policy on online gambling payment services. Meanwhile, the e-wallet platform GCash has said in a statement that it will comply with the recently issued BSP memorandum order mandating the suspension of in-app gaming access in mobile payment apps and websites in BSP's supervised institutions. Following this, the GCash, the e-wallet platform will implement the necessary changes within the next 48 hours. Affected users may experience the following. Access to gaming via GLive will be suspended after Saturday, August 16 at around 8 p.m. And the second, users may withdraw their funds from their gaming account back to their GCash wallet through GLive only until Saturday, that's August 16, 8 p.m. And after this, users who have remaining funds can only access this directly through the gaming merchants' websites. And also, GCash supports adopting stronger safeguards on online gambling, or online gaming rather, and will continue to work with regulators and industry partners to protect the financial health of Filipinos. And okay, so let's proceed now to the second topic that we have for today. So that's about the Judiciary Fiscal Autonomy Act that was signed yesterday by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. And he signed the Republic Act number 12233, or the Judiciary Fiscal Autonomy Act, a measure defining the scope and extent of the judiciary's fiscal independence as a co-equal branch of government. The new law, signed in a ceremony in Malacanang before lawmakers and Supreme Court officials and personnel, the law shall tackle the financial, administrative, and the operational aspects of the judiciary branch. And the Congress ratified the final version of the said bill, a consolidation of Senate Bill number 2982 and House Bill number 1135 on June 11, 2025. So how important is this new law for the judiciary branch? So to answer those, or to answer that question, we now have on the line the spokesperson of the Supreme Court of the Philippines, none other than Attorney Camille Ting. Good morning, Attorney Camille. This is Jerome Toledo of Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good morning, Jerome. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us in the program and taking our invitation. We appreciate that. Okay, so first things first. So how game changing this new law in the way the Supreme Court appropriates, spends, and allocate the budget?
Okay, so this new law is very game-changing for the Supreme Court and the rest of the judiciary. Although we know kasi na the Constitution guarantees that the judiciary should have fiscal autonomy, but for the first time, the details and outlines of, what fiscal autonomy actually means is detailed and outlined in this new law. So for example, for the first time, yung budget proposal ng Supreme Court as proposed by the Supreme Court without any reductions will go to Congress directly as an annex sa NEP, or the National Expenditure Program. Tapos the law also strengthens the court's authority to reorganize and create new offices as well as hire new people depending on its needs.
Okay. Attorney Camille?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, so having said that, the law states the proposed budget of the judiciary will go straight to Congress. You mentioned that po, Attorney. So will the SC face lawmakers and the budget will be deliberated in Congress?
Yes, actually, although there is this new law, the Supreme Court and the judiciary will still undergo the regular budget process, and this means having to defend its budget before the House and the Senate.
Mm-hmm. So given this situation that the SC will face lawmakers for a budget deliberation, so how long will it take for that?
Well, every year we have what we call the budget season, and that is when all the agencies in government will have to defend its budget in front of Congress and the Senate. So that will be happening soon.
Very soon. Okay. All right. So also the law, Attorney Camille, also mandates the automatic monthly release of the judiciary's cash requirements, equivalent to 1/12 of its total budget. So I would like to know the inclusion or what's included under the judiciary cash requirements.
So the judiciary cash requirements includes the salary of our justices, judges, and court personnel. It also includes what we call the MOOE.
If you have any data, so what's the amount of the Judiciary Development Fund before now? Before it was been replaced by Judiciary Trust Fund.
I actually have no data on the exact amount for that, pero the JDF will now be included in the JTF.
Oh, okay, got it. All right. Okay, so for transparency purposes naman po, Attorney Camille, the budget report will be a requirement, and would that be submitted to Congress and the executive department? So, how do you think of this? Because there's what we call a co-equal, I think a process or provisions under our constitution.
Actually, this is nothing new for us. The Supreme Court and the judiciary, we've always been submitting accomplishment and financial reports to the President and to Congress because this is part of the principle of checks and balance under the Constitution.
Okay, so how is this new law will modernize po itong processes ng Supreme Court and the judiciary in general? Itong Judicial Fiscal Autonomy Act.
Okay, so as we know, the Supreme Court has its blueprint of reform. It's called the SPJI, or the Strategic Plan for Judicial Innovations, 2022 to 2027. So under this SPJI, marami po tayong mga projects and plans so that we can modernize the judiciary and its processes. So, for example, we are decentralizing the Office of the Court Administrator. So far, we have established mga regional court manager, different regions, para lang mas mabilis yung process for processing mga administrative services and support for our courts. So the ORCM, ang tawag, will need the creation of new offices and the hiring of new people. Another would be the Office of the Judiciary Marshals. So this is a project under the SPJI, and this would entail also creating new offices and hiring new people. So this law will make it easier for the Supreme Court to be able to do this, to create its new offices and hire new employees faster and without need for complex processes.
Okay, so not just about the financial aspects, but also the administrative aspects din ang sakop po nitong Judicial Fiscal Autonomy Act. And at the same time, medyo similar po ito sa pinupush nga din po ng ating pamahalaan. Attorney Camille, itong Government Optimization Bill.
Yes, it's not only covering the budget, but it also covers the court's power to reorganize, to hire employees, and to that effect.
Okay. All right. So my last question, Attorney Camille. So how the Supreme Court will work with the Department of Budget and Management, and as well as the Commission on Audit, to ensure the proper implementation of the new law, given that the implementing rules and regulation must be made within 90 days?
So the law requires the Supreme Court to create or to come up with the implementing rules and regulations, or the IRR, for this law. And we will be working closely with the DBM and the COA to draft the IRR to ensure the law's proper implementation.
Okay. All right. Very well said. Okay. And with that, thank you so much, Attorney Camille Ting, the spokesperson of the Supreme Court of the Philippines.
Thank you very much, Jerome. Thank you for having me.
Okay. And that was Attorney Camille Ting, the spokesperson of the Supreme Court of the Philippines. And now, with that, we now conclude this edition of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Together with our production team and technical personnel, this is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.